I'm Ricky Willis. You might have seen me on TV, and now I'm taking on the podcast world. Join me as we dive into stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I believe everyone has a story we can learn from. Let's talk about yours. This is the Clever Conversations podcast. What's going on, baby? It's your man, Clever Conversations. Welcome. On this episode, we have the personal pleasure of speaking with somebody that I call brother, somebody that I call friend, and more importantly, somebody that I call Mayor. Mayor Van Johnson. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Man, thank you for being here. We're busy, man, over the city and got all kind of things, moving parts going on. So thank you for taking your time to come out.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about what made you want to get into politics at all? Like, what was the turn to get into politics?
Well, at that point, and this was probably 2002, 2003, I had been on radio for going on about 10 years at that point. At WSOK, I had a weekly show, Open Line Outreach. I was writing in the Savannah Tribune. I was involved in the community and community organizations, and an opportunity came up. And so people were asking me, well, why not you? And I'm like, that's not me. They're like, well, why not you? And it kind of came to me that at some point you have to get off the sidelines and get into the game. You can't complain about the game if you've done nothing to change the game. And so, I did what commentators and analysts and pundits do. We sit on the sidelines and we praise and we criticize, but realizing we're not on the field actually doing it. And so hence an opportunity for me to be a part of it. I ran against a 12-year incumbent at the time, which in Savannah was against one of the rules that you don't do. You wait your turn. You don't run against incumbents. And you wait till you're anointed. And I didn't do any of those things. And was able to win, and that was in 2003. And so now that's 21 years ago since I took up office.
Wow, man. So during that process, those 21 years, like when you first, okay, I'm gonna run with running against an incumbent again, that has a heavy weight within itself. People who already know him, already love him, or whatever. So what was the day you decided to do it? What was that day like? You're like, let me call these people and.
Well, it was kind of a process, but it was like, could I? My thoughts and my instincts were telling me that I wasn't going to get in there to lose. I was only going to get in if I thought I could win. At the time, people were talking about me running for mayor, and I wasn't. Mayor Otis Johnson at the time was running for mayor. I knew him and respected him from Savannah State. And so it was like, hey, you can take an opportunity to be a part of something. At the time, we had only one black mayor. That was Mayor Floyd Adams, who was ending his 8 years. And so it was really a process to get to the point where, hey, I'm going to offer it up. Politics is a dirty game sometimes. And said, here I go. And I'm going to offer myself up, but I'm going to go hard. I'm going to go strong. And we did. And, won relatively close. I think it was like 52%, 48%. But, it really set that, we wanted to have some younger voices, some different voices, different perspectives, some folks that are not born in Savannah at the table. It was an opportunity to maybe look at things a little differently. Prior to me running, people were either independently wealthy, self-employed, or retired. And, hey, I was working full-time at Chatham County, and so it was going to be hard, but was able to do it.
Well, we are definitely glad you've made those moves and transitioned that step. And you do a lot in the communities. Like, even before mayor, you was in the communities. What does that mean? What is the importance of giving back to the community? Boots on the ground type stuff. What is that feel like, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I think the most interesting thing, particularly people who offer themselves up for public office, to lead where they never served. And so, again, when I came, I was at that point with the Chatham County Youth Commission for 10 years, mentoring young people. I was on the board of the King Tisdale Foundation. I was on the board of the was known then as CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, on the board of Wesley Community Centers. Again, involved in the community. We have to be able to help work in the community, and so the community doesn't get better by those that have been blessed by the community to just feel like they're not a part of it. And so you have to give back. And there's a treasure, and there's your talent, and there's your time. And a lot of us been blessed to give to have all three, and you have to give all three. And so I think people saw that I had a resume that was indicative of service, and so I was glad that they chose me for that opportunity.
Let's talk a little bit about your education. Tell a little bit about your high school, about college, if there's.
Well, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, so I was a product of the New York City public school system. So for those that are familiar with New York, you know about the PSs and the ISs and the JHSs.
24.
Right. And so went to public school there, went to elementary school there, middle school there, which interestingly enough, I went to Mahalia Jackson and I went to Jackie Robinson. So, again, a city that was very intentional about honoring leaders. I went to high school in Brooklyn where the same place that Stephanie Mills went, Barbara Streisand went, Clive Davies went. It is the oldest high school in North America. And so, it's been there for a very, very long time. It is a mixture of business school and performing arts.
Okay.
And so I was able to do both and graduated at 16 and came to Savannah State. And came down to Savannah State at 16, became freshman class president at 16, and became junior class president and ran for student government president. But I lost that to a good friend of mine and earned my bachelor's degree. Went back to New York, came back, did my master's degree at Savannah State and Georgia Southern. And, done a law enforcement career. So I'm a certified law enforcement professional and a law enforcement instructor. So, part of my education. I was honored in 2020 to receive a honorary doctorate from Savannah State. And so that's a huge honor for me because Savannah State was a school that really gave me a whole lot.
Wow. So I was going to ask about you being being a police.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about a little bit about that. How did that come about, and what was the deciding factor on? You know what? Let's do something different.
Well, my father was in law enforcement for many years, and so
in Brooklyn.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and he worked with the New York City and New York State. So being a hero of mine, I think I always kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. I remember days in Brooklyn where the police would have us laid out in the middle of the street, and we still don't know to this day what we were laying out in the middle of the street of. Again, you can't change something from the outside. And so an opportunity came about for me to become a law enforcement officer. So I went to the police academy, became a police officer, Chatham County Police Department, served there a couple of years, and then went to the Chatham County Sheriff's Department where I was a reserve deputy for almost 20 years. And then transitioned really more from a street officer to a school resource officer and to a police instructor.
Man, so you did what the playbook says. The playbook says, don't just talk about it, do something about it so you could do something about it.
Right.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So during the time, your high school, college, I understand that you got into a little bit of music.
No, before that, yeah. So I come from somewhat of a musical family. My uncle, who recently passed away, was Phyllis Hyman's musical director He played bass. He was self-taught. I was a child when I used to watch him, teach himself to play the bass, and he is absolutely one of the best. Was one of the best bass players around. I've always had an interest in pianos and keyboards. Started doing it in church, and then when I got to high school, where there was so many musicians around, you just start picking up stuff. You start taking musical theory as a part of your core curricula, and came down, was playing for churches, got down here, started playing for churches, and then you start from there playing, weddings, and you playing funerals, you playing top 40 stuff. And so I still do that now. I still play for a church and played for churches continuously since I arrived here.
Wow. Yeah, man. Music family. That's just huge. I'm from one as well myself, but I'm not really good at it.
Yeah, right.
I'm not really good at a whole lot.
Yeah, your daughter do your beats and you do the lyrics. Yeah, right.
Teamwork make the dream work. She just
It
make me seem like I know what I'm doing.
Hey, all right. Well, somebody got to split it though.
So let's talk about during your time as the mayor of Savannah. What is one of the biggest changes that you saw occur in the city, and that is if it's something that you had a hand in doing or something that you just noticed happen? What was one of the biggest changes on the positive side from?
I would say that Savannah got a swag. For so long, one of my pet peeves was that Savannah was a pimple on Atlanta's behind. We have to leave here to go to Atlanta. We have to leave here to go to Charlotte. We have to leave here to go to Jacksonville. And it's like, no, everything we got, we're our own thing.
Right.
And I think now people realize a city like ours, 150,000 people, but yet 16 million visitors a year. People here from all over the world, businesses popping up from all over the place. We have a heightened sense and awareness about Black and brown-owned businesses, that people can come here and have their dreams come true. And you don't have to go anywhere to make that happen. And so now you have people in Atlanta trying to move to Savannah.
Come back.
Yeah, and I mean, they come here and they vacation. Man, I really want an opportunity here. And I think that's the biggest part, that Savannah, we're the first city in Georgia. This is where it all started.
Yeah.
And so Atlanta might influence everything, but Savannah started everything. And so I feel good when people feel good about Savannah.
If you wanted people to tell people one thing that Mayor Van Johnson wants them to know about my brother Van Johnson.
That I'm probably very reclusive. I'm, a loner for the most part. I don't roll with big crowds, although, sometimes I have to. But, for the most part, I'm doing me. I'm just kind of in my own space, in my own mind, in my own flow. And that's always been good for me. I mean, I can be that person when I need to be. But, most times just being at home, plundering through my junk room, as I call it, brings me peace. It just, I don't have to do the crowds. I don't have to do the events. You have to, because it's part of what your job is. But, Van Johnson's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, man. I know the brother, man. Super cool dude. I agree that sometimes it's super okay to be with you. Like, I'm okay with being with Ricky.
Right.
I'm okay.
A lot of people can't.
I'm okay with being with Ricky. However, I love my family, and we always clowning out. But sometimes when the family goes, they doing their thing. I'm okay with a nice bourbon cigar in the garage. I'm just okay with that. So that's good stuff. What, if anything, you can say to the people that is potentially popping up that's positive in our area, in Savannah? We got anything, positive or anything that you want to talk about as far as what is the next step for the city? What are we doing?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think the first thing, which is something I've been focused about, is the affordability of housing. the reality is, and people think that I control all of prices of housing.
Oh, it's your fault,
You
whatever.
know, we can't. Well, we don't control the weather. We certainly don't control rent. We don't control mortgages. And so people say, "Oh, y'all's rent is too high." It's not my fault that the rent is high. Georgia's a strong property rights state, and people can charge what they want to for their property. The sad part about it is that a lot of folks moved out of the hood, but they're concerned about the hood. But when you moved out the hood and you sold the hood or sold your interest in the hood, you helped to gentrify the hood. And so I don't think people really recognize that, when people are calling you all the time and they're texting you all the time, hey, you want to sell your house, you want to sell your house, you want to sell your house, and you're getting that money, that really sometimes you're doing your community a disservice because now that generational wealth is gone. Wealth has never been in money. Wealth has always been in land. Always. From biblical days, when you talked about wealth, you talked about land. And so I think people have to understand the importance of land in the wealth conversation. And we don't. Grandmama and granddaddy got together. They built this house with their blood, sweat, and tears. They passed it on to their children, and their grandchildren live there now. Their grandchildren, somebody offers them $50,000 for a house that is worth $100,000. They take the $50,000, then go buy them a car and some sneakers and a gold grill, and now they have to pay rent somewhere else. When they could have taken the $50,000 in equity they have in the house and fixed up the house themselves and lived there. But no, now you have equity firms that actually own these houses. They're charging the rents they want to charge, and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
What you say is so crazy because I personally know of a situation where somebody had a home, somebody ended up selling it for $40,000. Right now, today, that house is worth $400 and something $1,000. Same house, but they saw the big check. They saw the check.
Wealth that has $360,000 in opportunity missed. You could have kept it yourself. And so something that you didn't buy, something that you gained, but yet you got rid of it. And so, people are mad. Well, what's happening? Well, I mean, that house meant something. Either you could deed it to first-time homeowners, but no, you sell it to where the money is. And so we have to do a better job of estate planning. We're going to die one day.
Yeah.
And, what happens with your stuff? Another issue we have it was called heirs property, where you have someone who dies was called intestate, meaning they don't have a will.
Okay.
And so you end up having these heirs, and easily 5 heirs can become 150 heirs because you can start with 5. That person, all of them have children. One person dies, so now their heirs, say they have 5 children, now have 1/5 of that share. So now you have the 5 and then 4, which is 9, and anybody else's children. And then after time, it all spreads out. Then you have people that have outside children. You have someone, you always have a relative. You don't know where he is. You haven't heard from him in years. You always have a relative that's incarcerated somewhere. Right. You always have a relative that's paying taxes, trying to keep the house up. And you have somebody who's saying, well, I want my money, sell the house. And then you have somebody who's like, you can't sell my grandmama's house.
That big mama house.
Right. And so what ends up happening is it stays there. It falls into disrepair. It gets boarded up.
Trees growing
and there's trees going through it.
Right.
And there's nothing you could do about it because, the law says you just have to board it up. But somebody could be living in that space. So
most definitely.
That's a challenge.
What are your thoughts on the role that technology is playing to help Savannah?
Technology is a good thing. Used correctly. It helps us do things that we have not been able to do before. As you know better, you start doing better. I'm looking at your studio, and I've been in studios before, but this is state of the art. I see state of the art equipment, and so you see leveraging technology. For us, we want to leverage technology. We talk about drones. We use drones because drones get to places that we can't get to. We had a recent storm here, and we're looking to see damages on roofs, looking at the movement of rivers. We can't put people up there, but you have the technology to be able to do that. So I think it's a whole lot. We just have to make sure the technology doesn't make us lazy. When we were growing up, you had to know people's phone numbers. If you ask our kids, what is somebody's phone number, they don't know the phone number.
Right.
They
Number 6.
Right. Exactly. And so, you have to remember that 4 plus 4 equals 8, and you don't have to rely on a calculator. You still have to know how to count and compute percentages and multiply. I think those are skills. So you use technology as an aid and not as a crutch.
Right. And with that being said, it shows a lot, right? When you text somebody, hey, good morning, how you doing? And they text you LIOK or whatever, a lot.
LOL, JK, all that.
It's a lot of abbreviations in these texts.
Well, and the sad part is that I see people who write me letters, and they write letters or they send me emails how they text. So they're writing an abbreviation. And again, I think it's important that, particularly with our young people, that we're making them learn the art, learn the work, because the world of acronyms is not going to get it.
Yeah, you know what? It's like sometimes I tell people that today's youth, and not all of them, but a lot of them, they move in the microwave format. And I say that saying that it's got to be quick. And sometimes moving in the convection oven, the conventional oven, the one grandma made the macaroni and cornbread, and sometimes that is the best way.
Macaroni and cheese does not taste good in a microwave.
Right. Period. But to the microwavers, that's what they know. That's quick.
But then they don't
easy.
know real macaroni and cheese.
They never had it from Big Mama.
Right. I've tried oatmeal before in a microwave. I mean, it's not the same when you can make it in a pot.
When you make it in a pot.
And so I think for us, it has to be a combination of using the convenience. But if I wanted to make it, I could make it.
Right.
That we don't raise a generation of lazy, uninformed, dependent or technology dependent people.
Yeah.
Because if you do, when the technology is not available for whatever reason, then there are a generation of people who are stuck, and we don't want them to be stuck.
Yeah, you just referenced something a few minutes ago, and I gotta say that I'm guilty. Right, I'm guilty of not knowing people's phone numbers. I'm guilty of knowing, okay, I gotta save this. I got it saved as that. And the reality is, I mean, what you just said, that if I ever lost my phone, I only really know 2 phone numbers. I know my daughter's name and my wife's phone number. I don't know. And yeah, so I'm guilty, is what I'm saying. I'm guilty.
But we're all guilty.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm guilty.
I try to remember a few of them, and where I can. Whatever happens if the cloud goes away.
We have a storm, and now Verizon can't get through.
Right. And so we have to talk about redundancy, talking about access to information. Always talking about paper backups.
Yeah.
Because again, the technology is supposed to be the aid. It's not supposed to be the crutch.
Yeah. So with going into the aid and crutch thing, so that was kind of a great segue. What is your thoughts on the school system, and is there anything that we can do to as a community to help with anything pertaining to the school system?
So, and for a disclaimer, the city of Savannah has no purview whatsoever over the school system. I mean, It's a totally separate elected board. However, I believe that public education is a public responsibility. And there's nothing wrong with public education. There are people who, if my child's in private school, that's fine if that's what you like. But there's nothing wrong with public education. I became the mayor of the city of Savannah, and I'm a proud public school graduate. From high school through college and graduate school, there's nothing wrong with public school. But to that end, it is a very difficult thought. We have about 37,000 kids in our school system countywide. And these young people come sometimes with amazing challenges that have to be addressed before you can ever teach them, which is why I'm so appreciative of teachers and those in that space. Because these kids, whatever you're seeing in the community, you see these kids actually having. So some of these kids come to school hungry. Some kids are really happy to go back to school because they know they have regular food. They get breakfast and they get lunch. They may not be getting that at home. Some kids are getting love and concern from teachers and paraprofessionals and custodians and bus drivers that they're not getting at home. They get a routine at school that they don't necessarily get at home. They get medical attention that they can get at school that they may not get at home. So the school plays a very, very important part. I think we all can play a part and play a role in that. For me, it's been two things. One is that kids have to learn how to read.
Important.
Oh, it's dramatically important. If you can't read, if by third grade you can't read, and third grade is critical because that's where you stop learning to read and when you start reading to learn. So if you can't learn to read by the third grade, that means you can't read to learn, which means you're stuck, which is why I used to say they could predict with some certainty if third grade you weren't reading on average, that's how many jail cells they would need because they knew that you would be that far behind. So I think learning to read is important. Reading to kids are important. I do it whenever I can, making sure kids are hearing words because we know the kids that have a larger vocabulary do better in school. So we do that. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm a substitute. I substitute in the school system.
So somebody's liable to go to school tomorrow and see Mayor Van Johnson subbing from
Yeah. I mean, you got to be in it. And so, and as busy as I am, I mean, it's important. And I mean, when you get there, you find out that this thing is real. I mean, I come home sometimes more tired from substituting than I do with a whole day in City Hall. You go there and some of these kids are off the chain sometimes. I mean, and, it just takes a lot of energy and a lot of attention. And we thank God for teachers because, I'm just like, these kids, sometimes they're just wired up. So I do that. And then, working with the superintendent, we went out, we had a big attendance problem. We have a lot of kids that are not in school. So you can't learn to read if you're not in school.
Right.
So we were going, knocking on kids' doors, where you at? Why are you not in school? And sometimes the parents I didn't know the child wasn't in school. And so that's how the community can help. They can substitute, they can volunteer, they can do after school programs. But secondly, making sure if you see kids that are supposed to be in school, make sure the schools know about it.
Right. We got to be parents, not friends.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about music, man. Let's talk about, I'm going to throw out a couple of artist names and you give me this or that. Okay. You give me one or the other.
All right.
Let's just see where we go a little bit. I gotta say, Chris Brown or Usher.
Usher.
Okay. Drake or Kendrick.
Kendrick.
Okay, Kendrick. Why? Like, why Kendrick?
I just vibe with Kendrick more than I have with Drake. Yeah.
Okay. This is gonna be huge, and I kind of feel I know Biggie or Pac.
Oh, Biggie. Brooklyn, man.
I figure that.
I've met Biggie. I've never met Pac.
Really? So how was that?
It was cool. I mean, the interesting thing about New York and living in Brooklyn, you run into a lot of these cats, and so you just did. I mean, you just knew, Mike Tyson and Rick Bo were from my neighborhood. You just knew of them. So it was like no big deal. Then you're like, oh yeah, hi. So Big before he ever became big,
No pun. No pun intended.
Right. But he was huge just on a local scene.
They say he used to do a lot of battle rapping on the street.
A lot of it. In Bed-Stuy, Fulton Street. And so you just really got that opportunity for that. And now you see the genius and the mastery, but not only for Biggie, but for Pac as well. Just now that when you hear it now, it's just like still, dang, you know, just how they constructed it, how they vibe with it, you know, their use of samples.
Important.
Yeah, huge.
Wordplay.
To the point where their song becomes the actual article and not the sample.
Right.
You know, so when you hear More Money, More Problems, and you hear the sample of Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out.
Right.
Younger kids don't know about Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out. They say, oh, Biggie's doing, she's doing Biggie's song.
Doing Biggie song.
Right.
Yeah.
No, Biggie sampled her song.
My what's
You
funny?
know, Tupac with I Ain't Mad at You. It was The Barge.
The Barge.
A Dream.
A dream.
Right.
A dream. No,
Right.
you don't want me saying
Right. But so it's like, you know, it's interesting to watch the generation. Like, oh yeah, you know, that they're using his song. No, he was sampling their song.
So my son-in-law, one day I was listening to some music. I like yacht rock radio, so
Right.
the old 70s,
Right.
80s, I like that. So I'm listening to it, and
Blue Eye
Christopher,
Soul,
yeah, and so Christopher Cross comes on,
Sailing.
right, and so my son-in-law says, "Oh, he's using camouflage music." I said, "No, this song was written in 1971. This is," so I had to let him hear that for him to believe, like, because just like you just said, he was like, he's using camouflage music. This was before Camouflage Moms was probably born,
Right.
you know.
And you know, and I was just blessed to be alive at just during some amazing music.
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about that. I mean, you know, the whole Blue Eyed Soul deal. I mean, you know, Wham.
Listen, so people wouldn't know. It took me a long time. I was much older when I learned that What You Won't Do for Love.
But Bobby Caldwell
Yeah.
was white.
Right. Or Low Down by Bob Sox. I was already
Careless Whisper.
Come on now.
You know, it was like, dang, you know,
Come
it's like,
on.
oh, this is, you know, and it was no big deal.
No
You
big
know,
deal.
How Deep Is Your Love? I mean, you would just hear these songs and it's like, oh, wow, this is, and it was good music.
Good music, man.
Good music.
That's why I like the 70s, 80s. It was just good, clean. It's like you said, a lot of the samples are being taken from that music, from that time. People put it's like, yo, that was hot. Let's play this. Right now, I think an artist, Rashad, I forget his name. He's doing one an old song over.
While you figuring it out, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall album. Song is I Can't Help It.
If I wanted to, I
Right.
can't help it.
Written by Stevie Wonder. And when you hear it, you hear Stevie all day long. But that is a bad song. It's just the way that it's constructed. It's just like, wow. It's
Yeah.
just so much happening in the song, and you hear different covers to it, and it's like, wow. Another song, September.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
and Fire. I mean, a lot happening in that song. A lot.
There's a lot of moving
and
pieces.
it moves.
Yeah.
And even when you hear it now, it's just like, wow, that's really a nice song. And a bunch of Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. I don't know if you remember, but when we opened the Market Arena, the first act we had in there, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah. And these dudes are like 70 years old, and they came in there and they killed it.
It's EWF. Like,
Killed it. Verdell was killing it. You know, and again, right here in Savannah.
yeah, good stuff. A lot of good stuff is coming to Savannah, man. Even as far as like the end market and different venues and different places that people can come that is updated. Because I heard that before, like, well, you know, the Civic Center is kind of like dated, and so now we're giving opportunities and options. So now we got this.
And we agree, which is why we built a 10,000 seat arena, in which now the arena is ranked now worldwide. one of the top 100 venues in the world, right here in Savannah, Georgia.
Come on.
We just made a decision that we're going to keep the Johnny Mercer Theater. That is about 2,500 seats or so. We're going to do an extensive renovation on that. Again, opportunity to uplift that. We want to make sure that at the end of the day that people in Savannah, if you don't want to go anywhere, you don't have to. There was a time where we had to go other places to see stuff and experience stuff. No, we could do that here.
And with, like you said, with all the renovations, the celebrities and stars, they're like, well, we don't mind coming to Savannah. It's nice. It's, we got the river, we got this. So.
And what we find is they come here and they like to stay here. So the Eagles, when they started their world tour, they started in Savannah. They practiced here for 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. And they just hung out in Savannah for 2 weeks before they went on their world tour. And then one of their lead guys died.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of their last world tour before, with all of them together. Right. So, again, they come here, they like it, they enjoy it. We could be bigger than just gospel plays.
Definitely bigger than just gospel plays. And with that being said, over the last few years, over the last 10, 15 years, we've been seeing a lot of movies and films being done here. So that's a good sign too.
We're a huge film location. Georgia has a great state film credit as it relates to that. So people like doing it here. They like being here in Savannah. Everything from Glory, The General's Daughter, SpongeBob 2, Mad Max, Forrest Gump, were all filmed here in Savannah.
I actually was an extra in Glory.
Really?
Yeah. We had to go down to the visiting center and put the clothes on. But it was so many of
us. That's a little known Black history fact.
Little known Black history fact.
Yeah.
I was actually in April Fools, the movie that was shot in Charlotte too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
see, look at you.
So I'm growing.
Movie star, man. Get your IMDb page
for all 3 seconds total.
Hey, you in?
Hey man,
that's me right there, right there.
Now, if you blunked, can you rewind?
Freeze right there.
Then you won't be able to see me anyway because the static be on the freeze.
I see me right there.
Those are my shoes. I know
that's
those
right.
are my shoes.
That's right.
So let's talk about the instruments. You said you play keyboards a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you play any other instruments now?
I used to play baritone horn in high school. So I haven't touched the baritone horn in years.
Yeah.
Drums a little bit, not as good as I would like. And I said that, once I got finished with this, I would really kind of take that up more in earnest.
Yeah.
Because it's always something I wanted to do.
When you get finished with this, what do you mean finished with this?
Well, I'm locked in for 3.5 more years.
And we appreciate those 3.5 more years.
When I walk off the field, I'm term limited, so I can only serve 8 years as mayor. So once the term is over, I can't be mayor anymore. So, take my cleats off, take my jersey off, walk off the field, and then move on to something else.
Grab your soda and popcorn and be part of the audience at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So any up and coming young activists, any people, don't have to be young, any people coming up as far as activism and doing stuff in the community that you think people should watch for, like on some positive, let's follow this?
Well, I serve with some. I serve with some really good ones. Linda Wilder Bryant in the 3rd District, Dietrich Leckett in the 2nd District are really good community grounded activists. They put in time and they put in work. They govern at City Hall, but then you see them in the community still staying true to their activist roots. It's one thing on social media to say what should be done. It's something different when you get your behind in the streets and actually do it. And so the interesting thing is that people will tell me about what should be done while they were in the house the entire time. It's like, don't do me. Don't go there.
Period, Pooh.
Right. Period and per. Until you put together the type of resume that I have.
Right.
Until you go into neighborhoods and pull people out of houses when their houses are flooding, don't come for me. That's not the way to go.
And I'm sure that I'm sure that being the mayor of Savannah, you had a lot of, let's say, a lot of hurdles to jump. Um, let's talk about how you navigated through that.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. For a while, particularly as mayor, I feel like I always live at the intersection of white fear and black expectation.
Mm.
That sometimes white folk feel I'm not, I'm gonna do too much, and black folks feeling I'm not doing enough. It's a really interesting but difficult place to be in. That if I'm, and I've seen it, if I'm taking pictures with white folks, he ain't doing enough for the brothers. Then I'm with the brothers, man, look, he's just down with his, and it's like, really? I mean, I'm not the black mayor, I'm the mayor for the entire city.
Right, right.
I hang out with Asian folks, I hang out with Hispanic folks, I hang out with LGBTQ plus IA folks. If you, I mean, at least recently hanging out with our Caribbean brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, I'm the mayor for the entire city. I'm hanging out with Jewish folks. I'm hanging out with Palestinian folks. And I think it's unfair sometimes the expectations that people will put on you. And so then I get blamed for the rain. I get blamed for this. I get blamed for Pula. I'm not even the mayor of Pula. I get blamed for Southbridge. I get blamed for Berwick. I'm not even the mayor of those places, but yet you got everything to say about what I do here.
Yeah.
People in Darien, they talking about this and this and this, and they're mad because of what we're doing here. It's like, well, you don't even live here. What you worried about it for?
What are you talking about? Right.
So, you navigate it, and I've navigated it by being authentic and being true to who I am.
Yeah.
I'm educated. I'm dignified. I'm hood.
I love it.
And so, people have found that when they come with craziness on me, they're gonna get craziness back. You play dumb games, you win dumb prizes. And so, people will come on and they'll say crap to me on Facebook or Instagram, and they're gonna get clapped back.
Right.
And we can go at this as long as you want to go for it.
Right.
And the funny part about it is it's usually not people in Savannah, it's people around Savannah. Like one guy says, well, tell your people if you clean all the drains, then the streets won't flood. I said, well, you tell your people if they don't litter, then the drains won't be, and then the streets won't flood.
Through.
Then he said, then somebody takes it and says, that's not the way the mayor should be speaking to people. Well, I said, that's not the way he should be speaking to me.
That's not the way he should be speaking to the mayor.
Right. And so don't do it.
You're going to match the energy.
Don't do it.
Well, I'm definitely not
I can
doing
be petty for days, for weeks, for months, for centuries.
I think what some people forget is that, yeah, I am the mayor.
I will fight.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am the mayor.
I'll fight.
But I throw hands.
I'm from Brooklyn. I mean, there's still an instinct in me that's
ready.
Is guttural and is instinctive. And if unchecked, my wisdom, my age, and my education helps keep that
ground.
Well, and it keeps it concealed and it keeps it managed. But then when you go there enough, and I've been known a couple of times, they said something about my mama. I'm like, I'm at 2 East Bay Street. Matter of fact, meet me on the corner of Bay and Whitaker. I'm standing here waiting for you.
I'll be in the red shirt,
look,
in the Reeboks.
And I was standing there. I said, no police. You got to say, then come on and say it.
Say it to my face.
Never showed up.
So let's talk a little bit about the state of the world, the state of politics today. Like, any thoughts, any vibes, anything that you think or what you would like to say to just people?
Well, I think we find ourselves living in some historic, amazing times. There are things that I have seen that I never thought I would see. I saw the first African-American president, a black president. I saw the first female and first black female and Asian American vice president. I saw the first black female Supreme Court justice. I saw the second black Supreme Court justice. I mean, you've seen things that were historic and groundbreaking, but then you also see a level of meanness and pain and virtual that we never thought you would see. I mean, it's gotten like bad when your whole campaigns, and this is campaigns on all levels and both sides, when all day really what we have to talk about is each other instead of talking about what you're going to do. And so for me, it's always been a staple of my campaigns that I'm not talking about the other person. I mean, either I talk about what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do. But here, if you look, I mean, everybody's just attacking each other. And then we wonder why our kids, engage in this type of thing, because this is what they see adults doing. There was a time where people were, at least a little more genteel, at least on the surface. But now you see where it's just really mean. It's nasty. And, you're really concerned about it. We knew there was a day at one point where you had elections, people won, people lost, but then you walked on your side of you went back and you lived. Now it's like, nah, we don't care what you say. We're not accepting the result. What does that mean? We live in a country that the hallmark is what's called the peaceful transfer of power, that no matter how it goes, at the end of the day, the person elected is the leader. And so for all of my life, for all the presidents I've known of or that I have served while I was living, they peacefully transferred power. And this is different. It's like, well, nah, I lost. No, I didn't. I won.
Yeah.
And there are people around, no. I mean, it's like, come on, really?
One of the crazy things for me is even just talk about elections in the last couple. When you think about people saying, well, the election was stolen or they cheated me. Now, the funny thing, and I have this conversation with my family, the funny thing is you only got cheated on the ones you lost. Is that what you? Because the ones you won, you saying everything was perfect with those.
But then, and sometimes they're on the same ticket, on the same election. So
Right.
I lost this election, but we won this election.
Right.
But we cheated. So, so how can you cheat on one and not cheat on the other? And it's crazy. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, maybe there is some cheating going on here and there. I mean, but the reality is at the end of the day, the result is the result. And which is why I've run elections. I said, leave no doubt. Yeah. But, what we've seen, I mean, I was an elector for President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I went to Atlanta. I was one of 16 in Georgia when Biden won Georgia. We went to the Capitol, and there were 16 Republican electors who were illegal electors that were casting votes in Georgia as well on that same day. I don't know. I mean, I think we've always taught people that we abide by the rules. Bad calls are made sometimes, but just I'm concerned about the state of our democracy or the state of our republic going forward of this.
I think it's important for people to know that it is important to vote. A lot of people don't think that it's important. I'm not voting, man. Nothing. It's not affecting me one way or the other. But what they don't realize is that one ticket, if you will, could talk about how your grandmother's gonna get her Social Security. The next one that you're not voting for could talk about how much the businesses can maneuver and manufacture, how much you got to pay for your child care. It's not affecting you at all, but something else is talking about the taxes on groceries and this. So it is affecting you, right? So I just like to tell the young people, man, every chance I get, vote, man. Like, vote.
Well,
and it's important, very much important, not just for the presidential elections. It's very important to be knowing what's going on in your city,
Well, I voted in every election since 1987. Every single one of his dog catcher, surveyor, I mean, whatever it was, I voted. But by not voting, you're voting.
Exactly.
By not voting, you're saying that I am satisfied with how things are, or I'm satisfied with how things will be, however it's going to be. So not voting is also, and so for me, if I'm riding in a car, I want to have some say-so on where that car goes.
Right.
If I'm helping pay for the gas.
Right.
And so I think that is the challenge that people face. We have to be engaged and be a part of the process. I see too many people that complain about everything, and then I ask them, well, did you vote? Well, nah, well.
Yeah. I worked at this place, and so I was getting ready to leave. And so I recommended that my number one get promoted to my position as I was leaving. So my number one was like, I don't really know. So I said to him, if somebody else comes and changes the rules and change the patterns, you can't say anything.
Right.
Because see, you have the opportunity to be the person that's making the change. You have that opportunity.
Right.
But if you don't want it, I can't really force it on you. But you can't really complain if somebody else comes.
You can be a thermostat, or you could be a thermometer. Thermometers take the temperature. Thermostats set the temperature. And so I refuse to be just somebody to sit here and say, it's hot as hell in here and be mad about it. I want to be a person that sets the temperature and say, I'm going to make it cooler in here.
That's right.
And so we have that chance to, either sit back and just accept things as they are, or we can be proactive individuals to help make things the way we want it to be. And again, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but the reality was you participated in the process.
You did something.
Yeah. And so I think it's not only as a right as an American, it's an obligation as an American.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, we appreciate you stopping by. I get to, again, call you my brother, call you my friend, and more importantly, call you Mayor Van Johnson.
Thank you,
appreciate you for stopping by,
Appreciate it.
man.
Congratulations on your new endeavor. It's always good to push out on your own, and you have done it in a big way. Y'all have got to see this space. You rent the space out?
Yes.
All right. Well, y'all, how do they rent it out?
You're going to be able to contact us at the Clever Conversation Podcast on IG and Facebook.
All right, because they got it. It's nice up in here. You can come up in here and be a big dog too, like Clever.
We actually have a podcast recording area and a actual recording booth. So we have a couple
We
of
can use
artists.
all this equipment too.
Yeah, we got separate equipment.
I mean, we could move this out the way and put, the mayor's dialogue or something.
Listen, we'll get you set up so whenever you want to sit right here,
like the boom room in here, like so glow, it comes down and stuff, Smoke coming
there
through
is
the room.
one.
Yeah, smoke coming through the room.
Oh, I got smoke. No, you want? No, I'm just.
You probably do.
Listen, brother, I appreciate
Where
you.
the bourbon at? I know you got bourbon in here.
Of course I do.
See, cigars and stuff. I know.
Of course I do.
I know you do.
Listen, we'll handle that when we get finished with this. But but listen, brother, I appreciate you for taking your time out your busy schedule. I thank you for coming through and blessing Clever Conversations with your time, your spirit, your energy. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you?
Mayor Johnson SAV. Mayor Johnson SAV on Facebook, Instagram, X, and not really TikTok yet. I mean, I'm that whole Chinese thing.
But listen, though, I did see the video on Facebook. Somebody said you was looking for me. The man right chill. When you got out the car.
Oh.
Yo, that was hot, though.
But then there was people hating. Why he doing that? It's like, yo. So I can't.
Nah, that was fun. And I'm from Savannah. Of course I know. I'm from Brooklyn. Of course I know. I'm from Savannah. Of course I know downtown. So
there's gonna be some more. So all you haters, get ready.
Get
it's gonna
ready.
be more
He is
stuff
coming.
for you to hate.
Listen.
And I don't care.
Listen. And if me and my team could be a part of it, we don't care neither, baby.
Push it. Push it real good. Push it.
Listen, man, thank y'all again. We appreciate y'all for coming out. Clever Conversations with Van Johnson, Mayor Van Johnson, the city of Savannah. We just want to get out by saying 2 fingers, 1 love. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe.
912. 9,
One.
2 fingers, 1 love.
There we go. 912.
912.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Blessings.
Blessings.